Good morning, podcasters. Let's talk about how to make the links you share on social media look better. Welcome to the 30th episode of the all-new Good Morning Podcasters. My name is Fuzz Martin, and each week I bring you 3 episodes dedicated to helping you get better at marketing, advertising, PR, and social media as those things relate to podcasting. If you listened to last Friday's show, which actually came out on Saturday morning, you'll know that I am getting over the flu, and while I feel a lot better, I'm still not 100%, and that's mostly coming through in my voice. But the show must go on. It doesn't really need to go on. Like you, I could have really taken some time off for rest, and I'm sure you would have been fine with that. But I like podcasting, and I like my routine. So let's get into it. Do you know what the term open graph means? Open graphs are meta tags that work behind the scenes on a website page. So when somebody shares a link to a page with proper open graphs on social media, those open graphs are retrieved and the preview for that page looks great. When there are no open graph tags, the preview usually looks like garbage. You get a little square to the left, usually with an oddly cropped image or a broken image, and then some text on the right, and it just looks ugly and mailed in. People are more likely to interact with a good-looking link, and therefore that link is more likely to perform better on social media, specifically in the algorithms, because the algorithms like posts that are getting clicks and likes. The Open Graph protocol was actually created by Facebook in the early 2010s, and then a few years later, Twitter, LinkedIn, and other social networking sites adopted them as well. There are 4 real types of open graph tags that are required when a link is shared on social media. The first is the title. So this would be the title of your page as you want it to appear on social media. It shouldn't be any longer than 60 characters. So if you're using a regular title tag on your website, you've got your title there. Your social tag should be 60 characters or less so that it doesn't get cropped when you share that title on social media. The type, that's the second kind of open graph tag that's required. This is the type of content. Usually you'll use website for everything unless it's a article. And if you're using an article, then you'd use the article tag. So it's either article or website. If you're using some plugins like Yoast or SEO Press, they'll give you the option to toggle that. The third required type is image, and that's the one we're going to talk about a bit more coming up. But the open graph image is the preview image that people are going to see when your link is shared. This one is the most visible, since it's an image, and this is the one you should care the most about. And again, we'll talk more about that coming up in a few moments. And the fourth required tag is the URL tag. So obviously the URL that is being shared. You should use the canonical tag, and I'll provide a link to Ahrefs that you can read more about on how to use the canonical tag with your URL open graph tag. One other important tag, though it's not required, is the OG description tag. You get a very limited snippet of text below your image when you share a link on social media. If you use the open graph description tag, you can make sure that the text is written to connect to those seeing that post on social media specifically. There are a whole bunch of other types of open graph tags as well, but those that I've mentioned are the most important for your social posts. So now let's discuss open graph images. Again, the open graph image tag, when used correctly, will make your images look great whenever your link gets shared on Facebook in particular, but also LinkedIn, Twitter, Slack, Post News, Mastodon, MySpace. I got nothing. Your open graph image should be 1200 by 630 pixels. It needs to be less than 5 megabytes, though. You should never really have images that are 5 megabytes big on your website page ever. That'll kill your site load speed. So don't do that. Make that as small as you can make it while still having good quality. Your image should be branded, relevant to your episode. You could always just have one site-wide open graph image if this is something that you don't want to do for every single episode, but just know that when you share that, it'll be the same image that's shared every time a link to your website is shared. But You want a 1200 by 630 image. I try to make them customized for each episode that I do. Everything's the same. I just change the title and maybe swap in a different background image or color. So how do you install and edit Open Graph tags on your website? It really varies from site to site, but if you're in WordPress, I recommend installing the free version of the Yoast plugin. This will take care of that for you. Then you can scroll to the bottom of any new post that you create. You click on the word social inside the Yoast SEO box, and then you can edit your Open Graph title, description, and image. In there, if you edit the Facebook area, and this goes for any site, you should be good pretty much on any social media platform. But I forgot to mention this earlier. Twitter has created its own protocol called Twitter Cards. It's pretty much the same thing, though slightly different. Twitter's preferred image size is 800 pixels by 418 pixels. But if you scale that up by 1.5, it comes out to 1200 by 627 instead of 1200 by 630. So you're 3 pixels off. It'll be okay. Also, if your Twitter card information isn't available, Twitter will just default to your Open Graph tags anyway. So I've only used specific Twitter cards a handful of times in my life. You should be fine with Open Graph standard images and Open Graph tags unless you really want different image or different text on Twitter specifically, or if Elon changes something on us, which he is wont to do. If you're using Squarespace to edit your Open Graph image, just go to page settings, go to social image, and then upload. If you're on Wix, you can edit this in the social sharing settings area of a post. That's a bit of a tongue twister. And if you're using podcastpage.io, once your episode has gone live, click edit, scroll all the way to the bottom of the page. There's a little edit pencil button next to advanced SEO settings. Click that, and then you can edit your SEO title, description, and image, which includes the social sharing image. I've been starting to ask as many connected people as possible to make updates to the podcast RSS protocol to include Open Graph images in the RSS feed, so this can be an automated process with websites. We'll see if anybody's listening. Are you listening? Please include the Open Graph image in our podcast RSS feeds. Thank you. You're spending a lot of time putting out great content for your show. It only makes sense that your web content is as good looking as possible. And when you share an episode or your website or an article from your website on social media, that it looks great and you're getting good interaction with your page. There are few things that make me cringe more than when somebody posts a link to their website on social with a broken Open Graph image or even an ugly image. Make yourself some 1200 by 630 pixel Open Graph images and make sure they're properly installed on your site. I've got links to the Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn post validators and inspectors on goodmorningpod.com, or you can check the show notes. That'll do it for today's episode of Good Morning Podcasters. If you found this episode helpful, please consider giving me a 5-star review on your preferred pod platform. Also, please consider following the show and telling your friends who podcast about GMP. Thanks again. We'll talk to you on Wednesday right here on Good Morning Podcasters.